how's this look, Beth? So does it need to go up a little bit?
Scott had asked me yesterday, when are you going to do it? I said, I don't know. Nothing was said. Yeah, outside it sounded like stuff was falling over. Yeah. We kind of jumped a couple of times. I wouldn't got the rest of the game. I should have called her. She said she had a check and for whatever, and I assumed she meant that it was made out to Brighton Chapel and she just wanted to know where to send it on to them. So sounds like it got straightened out.
All right, welcome everybody. I don't know if you're, there you are, we're over here. And welcome to BCTV. It's a little bit of a strange time. We're not normally on in the afternoon. It's usually in the evening. And so, but this was an opportunity for us to come together. I know that we wanted to give you an opportunity to get to know Scott Beecher a little bit better. For those of you that are like, what's going on? Why are we doing this? So we have elders on our team, and we're grateful for them. And so you're looking at me weird, Beth. Is that everything good? So yeah, it sounds like everything's okay. So anyways, we have 7 elders on our our church. And the elders are the leaders of our church, and we're grateful for them. And I'm one of them. And so our volunteer elders, they have a 3-year term. And so that's just a thing that where they get voted in by the church, and then what they do is they serve in that leadership position. And we are grateful for all the guys that are on our team and that serve our church, serve the Lord in that capacity. Well, one of our elders had stepped down, or his term had come to an end, and he is taking a break, and so that left a vacancy. And so we began the process of looking in our church family for key leaders, that men that we see involved in the ministry, people that are men with character, and the biblical character of Timothy and Titus, those requirements. And then we're looking for people that just love the church and love Jesus. So we're just thrilled that we've went through a lot of guys and boiled it down. We have a lot of great men in our church. But the Lord led us to this man right here. So anyways, I don't know, was that a blessing, or is that like,
Remember, God's got a sense of humor.
Yes, he does. So I mentioned last Sunday that Scott we are interested in presenting Scott as one of our elders, and a potential elder. All of our members will vote on him. Those that are available on March 9th. And so if you are an official member of Brighton Chapel, you're able to vote to affirm him into the position of elder for a 3-year term. And so anyways, we wanted to give you a chance to get to know Scott a little bit better, because some of you see him around. You're up here doing some goofy videos, or not videos sometimes, but introductions of Hoosiers Feeding the Hungry. But you're here on a different capacity. They want to get to know you a little bit. So are you from around here? Like, just kind of walk us through, who is Scott Beecher?
Okay. No, I was born and raised in Rochester, Indiana, which is only 20 miles from Plymouth.
Yeah.
On a dairy farm, and it was a Christian home. I accepted the Lord when I was 11 or 12. Unfortunately, I don't remember the date. I do remember the day.
Huh.
I remember how that felt and what I was going through. But I think, unfortunately, at that young of an age, I knew what I was doing, but I didn't know what it entailed.
Sure.
And as I got through high school and then went to college, I fell away. I didn't walk with the Lord. Yeah, I still knew what was right and what was wrong, but I didn't do what was right all the time. So, I mean, I never, I shouldn't say never, I didn't really start to walk closely with the Lord until I met my wife. And I was 40 when I met my wife. I'd always wanted to get married. I had some relationships in college afterwards. That didn't work out, and they didn't work out because the Lord wasn't in them. And I think subconsciously I knew that, but I didn't want to say that that was the reason. But anyway, so for a long time I wasn't in a relationship, and but I eventually got very depressed and lonely, and I was. I just felt like I can't do this. I just, nothing works. And I remembered a lesson that the Lord had taught me back when I was in my early teens. We had a man and a wife come and did a special at our church. And he sang and she played the piano. And he told about how they had met, that he had prayed to the Lord for a mate, and the Lord had provided his wife for him. And I remember being, that teenager that knew it all, and I went, God's got no time for that kind of stuff. He's way too busy with other stuff. And so on December 16th, 1999, at noon, I prayed a simple prayer, which I hadn't really prayed for a long time, but I was sincere, and I said, Lord, I guess if I'm going to get married, you got to take care of it.
That's a pretty bold prayer.
And at 4 o'clock that afternoon, my wife-to-be knocked on my door and introduced herself. And so it just goes so well with your sermon a week ago.
Oh, yeah,
I just sat there and thought the whole time, that he's talking about me. The God was definitely involved.
Yes.
And once my wife and I kind of figured that out, we went back and talked about things and how she had prayed and she had tried to ask for courage, and then that particular day, for whatever reason, she got the courage to stop because she'd been going past the house and wanted to meet me, and her dad wouldn't introduce her. And so it's great to see that the Lord was involved in that. And so anyway, she was attending English Prairie Church, which is what the South Church used to be. And she invited me to go a couple times after we started dating, and I'm like, And thank the Lord she didn't give up on me, because about the third time I said, okay, I'll go with you. And I just remember walking through the door down there, and it was like the Lord said, welcome home. And I really felt, I'm like, wow, I'm home. And I don't think it was just that building. I think it was just the fact that I had said, I'm coming back, Lord.
Yeah.
And so that was almost 25 years ago.
Wow.
And so I've just steadily grown closer. I've gotten into, trying to read the Word, and obviously going to church and being active and serving others. I farm for a living.
Yeah.
All I've ever wanted to do was farm.
Now, did you grow up on a farm?
I grew up on a dairy farm.
Okay.
And then after I got out of college, I went to work on another dairy farm because I wasn't very smart. Because I don't really like cows. I like the crops.
Gotcha.
And then I came up in this area, in this immediate area in '87.
Oh, okay.
And
is that when you went to the Kaufmans,
yeah,
right?
I worked for a gentleman named Ron Kaufman, right here east of Brighton.
Yeah.
For 15 years.
Yeah.
Ron's a great friend. Ron's a great farmer, and I learned a lot from Ron.
Yeah.
But the Lord had other plans for me, and I ended up with Scott and Jerry Gokenauer.
Yeah.
And farming with them for a while, and then when Jerry passed away, then John came in, and John and Scott and I farmed, and then when John passed away, Scott and I have kept it going. What's called Crossroads Farms. It's the first farm down the road here.
Yeah, yeah.
And,
well, that's awesome.
Great people to work with, the Gokenauers. Yep.
Yeah. So now with your church involvement and stuff like that, what are some of the things, we'll talk about what you do here. What were some of the things that God got you involved in down at English Prairie? What were some of the things that you were able to serve, like what kind of capacity and stuff like that?
Well, I did some Sunday school teaching. We have a very small congregation. We didn't have a great outreach program simply because we just didn't have enough people.
Sure.
But we did do some things, and I was involved in that. We did go to the trailer park there on 9 that BC on the road went to last summer.
Yeah.
When Dwight Kaufman was pastor, and we did some of that. I think we made a difference there. I mean, we spread the word, and I just did whatever I could to help. Mm-hmm. And
now you were there when they decided
yes
to so you've been in a situation where a church has decided to close its doors. Yeah. While that's were you a part of the decision making of that, or were you part of I'm just going to help us get this closed, or bring it to an end?
I was part of the decision making.
So is that I have never been in a situation like that where I've had to make a decision: do we close the doors, or do we keep this going with whatever? How was that a hard?
It was very hard.
Wow.
It was very hard. On one hand, you kind of surprised me with this question, but on one hand,
I've always wanted to know. Hey, that's part of being an elder. You're going to get some surprise questions.
On one hand, I felt like that perhaps the group that was still there, that we were letting the Lord down because we just couldn't function. didn't seem to be reaching others.
Wow.
Okay. On the other hand, I felt like those that were still coming, we were kind of letting them down because we were going to not disband.
Yeah.
What the Lord told me at that time was, this is what I felt like he told me was, I want you to just go, to spread out, go to other churches, go help them, go be a part of them. Perhaps it would help us to come back to life, because I think we were just a little bit beat down and tired, and no, that was not an easy decision.
I would imagine that's a lot of prayer, a lot of wrestling, and then it's the unknown, because you're like, well, if we did this, it could have gone this way or that way, and if we didn't, it may not. So then you just, that is a very stressful, and as a leader, that's a refining moment, especially for you, because you're going to find yourself, just like with all of us as leaders in our church here at Brighton, hard decisions have to be made. And so God prepares men to make hard decisions, and it's not for our glory, it's not for our, fame. It is because we're called to serve in that capacity. And so that was probably not something I'm sure you were not thrilled to have to be a part of, but you rose to the occasion and helped.
So we have a very, very awesome church family here. And for me, I'm surprised at the size that it is, that how close I feel to a number of people.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know everybody, and not everybody knows me, but down there, we were small numbers, and we were really close. It was really a family thing. And it was like, what's my brother in Christ going to do if we don't come here every Sunday? What's my sister going to do? And, we're going to scatter. And I have lost contact with some of them.
Sure. Well, so some came up this way to Brighton Chapel. You yourself, I know when Dwight retired, and then I had talked with him about, hey, come up here. We could use your help, and so I know that, and he's a volunteer, retired pastor here, and then you came up here and became a part. You've jumped in more on the evangelism mission side. That seems to be your heart, or at least tell us a little bit about that.
So we did do some of that. We went, I think my first mission trip, I went to Haiti, but I went with a Brighton Chapel group. And then Dwight led a team. I think, Dwight, his memory's better than mine. I think we were to we were to Florida once for hurricane relief, and that was the year that Katrina hit, but they were still recovering from an earlier hurricane in Florida.
Oh, okay.
And things weren't organized that well in New Orleans. So that first year, Dwight led a team there, and then I think we went to New Orleans 4 times.
Wow.
And it just kind of got a hold of me, the mission thing, helping others. And I relish the opportunity to go to Haiti. I miss going to Haiti. I wish we could go back, maybe someday. Made some great contacts down there. And went to Nicaragua. I always want to say Nicaragua last summer. That was good. That was awesome.
So that kind of missions is important to you. I know Feed My Starving Children is very much a big part of your life. And then you've been involved in the food drive and BC on the Road. BC on the Road, I think you've been involved in that too. So tell us a little bit about those two things that you're involved in.
I told you I've always farmed, never really done anything else. That's all I've ever wanted to do. But as I get older, I feel like what the Lord has really wanted me to do is feed people. Whether it be through producing the goods or distributing or whatever. And what Feed My Starving Children taught me is we need to feed them body and soul. So the evangelism comes right along with feeding, feeding them
Yeah.
their bodies. And so, yeah, when the food drive came around, I don't know if I really jumped in or whether I got pushed in by Carolyn. I don't remember for sure. She's gone now. So.
Yeah, so we can really, we can get her. We can rib her a little bit.
But yeah, that's been great. Then we did some BC on the road, which is where we basically go out once a week and we serve a little supper, hamburgers or hot dogs or walking tacos or stuff, and then we usually share a story and just try to pray with people. Obviously, that's the great thing about the food drive. Everybody gets prayed with unless they absolutely don't want to, and I think it's been twice that I remember for me that I offered to pray with somebody and they said no thank you. And I think a lot of the reason we have the same people come back, they need the food, but I think they really want the human contact, the prayers, the interaction, and made some great friends through that, I think.
Yeah.
I always tell them, well, it's weird, but I hope to see you next month, but I really don't want to see you next month. I wish you wouldn't have to come for this reason, but I really want to see you and talk to you.
Yeah, but if you need it.
Yeah.
So you're very much into helping people, and so, I mean, obviously the heart for people, the heart for Jesus, the heart for this church, that's why, I mean, it seemed very obvious to us that the Lord was leading you in that, leading us in that direction. And I've always thought I'd like to see you in that position and as an elder here. So I was really excited of the steps and how the Lord brought the elders together around. We've got a great list of guys that we're very interested in. We're actually, as a side note, we've got a number of young men that I want to prepare for elderships. So looking forward to getting that started with these young men. But I'm just thrilled. The Lord has brought you.
Thank you.
God has really, I don't know if it really changed your life or how significantly it changed your life, maybe a confirmation of things, but you almost died.
Yeah.
And we got just another minute or two. Why don't you tell people about that? That happened when? Right before COVID, I think?
That was in 2019.
Okay.
Yeah, in January 2019.
Okay. So what happened briefly?
Bad accident. Multiple skull fractures, broken nose, broken eye socket. That's what when you hit the concrete floor and then have steel fall on top of the back of your head, that's what happens.
That's what happens.
Of course, blood everywhere because it's head wound. And I didn't know what happened right away, and I was confused, obviously, still conscious. And when I realized what had happened, then, of course, the panic starts to well up. And I plainly heard God say, "You're not going to die here today." And he said it twice. He said, "You're not going to die here today." And remember, the Lord has a sense of humor, so he puts up with guys like me because I immediately remember replying in my head to him, "Good, I'm not going to die, but I'm not going to be able to just get up and walk this off." Well, what about that? I did. That was the words I used. I'm like, and he says, "I got that too. I got that too." And so then I relaxed. I'm like, well, let's just get this over with. Everybody else is, having, panic,
Yeah.
and of course. But anyway, he did. The doctor said you should have died. I had a bleeding of the brain started, and I'm sure that's when the Lord said you're not going to die. He stopped that. And then the recovery was, the nurses, the doctors just kept saying, "Wow, you're so much better today." And then, I was in the hospital eight days, I think, and they even did the plastic surgery to correct the eye socket before I went home. And he said, "That's really unusual. Normally I got to send you home for 2-3 weeks to let swelling and stuff go down." But he said, "If you're good, I'll do it." And I was like, "Yeah." And then physical therapy, they were surprised, first day I walked in, they're like, "Oh, you're going to be here a while." And then, I would go in 3 or 4 times a week. And after a couple of weeks, they're like, he was trying to find things that I couldn't do, because it was affecting my balance. It destroyed my inner ear. on my left side.
Sure.
And that's another thing I really believe this of the Lord. He healed everything about me but my hearing. And he could have. And he could still. I don't ask him to, because I feel like what he did was leave me a reminder of what he did for me. And I like that, because I don't want to forget what he did.
Absolutely. So it's an incredible journey, and you're how old?
Just turned 67.
Man, you have so much more life to live, and God has so many things for him to do. So we're just thank you for sharing all this, and so if you're watching here today, and we'll wrap it up here. If you want to get to know Scott even a little bit more, he'll be out after the services on Sundays and over the next couple of weeks. And if you want to ask him any questions, you can. I think he likes surprise questions; those are good. And if you would like to talk to him, he would love to get to know you better. But on May 9th, so if you're a member watching this, on May 9th, what we'll do is out in the foyer. You'll just have to go to the welcome desk, and they'll have the membership list. You let them know your name, and they'll give you a ballot, and you can affirm or deny. I mean, you have that option. We think the Lord is in this, but you have that option, and that you cast your ballot on May. Did I say May? I meant to say March 9th. So we're not waiting until May. That's way too long. But March 9th is when we're going to have that vote. So we hope that if you're watching and you're not part of Brighton Chapel, I hate to say this, you're missing out. There's a lot of good things that are going on here. And he's a hunter. And so one of the things that he started here was Hoosiers Feeding the Hungry. That's what it's called, right?
Yeah.
And so if you shoot a doe or a buck and you want to donate that meat, that meat can get processed and then...
No cost to you.
No cost to you.
And it goes to a food bank in the county that you donate it to.
Wow.
So anything that's donated in LaGrange County can go to Brighton Chapel, or it can go to Food and Clothes Basket, or anybody that has a food drive. And you can designate where you want it to go. That's
awesome. Well, I know a lot of it goes to our food drive, and so it goes out to the families we serve, and there's like 100 families that we serve every month, and so what a blessing that is for our church, and thank you for starting that and have the passion for that. So thanks for joining us here today, and we'll see you on Sunday, and hopefully you'll join us and get to know Scott a little bit better.